shifting focus to the outcomes of the Modi-Trump bilaterals. The United States, during the recent meeting between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and U.S. President Donald Trump, has made a landmark offer to supply India with the F-35 Lightning II fighter jets. Now, this proposal has in fact sparked significant interest in New Delhi, as the F-35 is hailed as the most lethal, survivable and connected fighter aircraft in the world. This in fact comes after Russia renewed its pitch in fact to offer India co-production of the 5th generation fighter S-57 at Bengaluru Aero India 2025 that has just taken place. So here is the question that we are trying to get our answers to. Which aircraft fits India's strategic and operational needs? In fact, you can see a couple of specifications of the F-35 fighter jets on your screens, viewers. You can see there it's manufactured by Lockheed Martin. It of course is can handle one crew member. Its length is 15.7 meters, its wingspan 11 meters, its height 4.4. It's a very crucial aspect of the United States defense arsenal as well. So when it comes to the F-35 and the Su-57, let's in fact take a look at the comparison in particular. You can see right there on your screens, as far as the price is concerned, the US F-35 costs around 109 million, Russian Su-57 costs 35 million. As far as the power is concerned, US F-35 costs is about 43,000 lbf and Russian Su-57 is 33,100 lbf. US F-35's max speed is 1976 kilometers per hour. Russian Su-57 is 2135 kilometers per hour. US F-35 service ceiling is 50,000 feet, Russian Su-57 is 66,000 feet and max takeoff load is 29,900 kilograms for the F-35, and for the Su-57 it's 35,000 kilograms. So there of course are some of the specifications. We are flashing those numbers on our screens consistently. We are being joined by some very special guests on the broadcast today. We have with us Group Captain V.N. Jha, he is a defense expert. We also in fact have with us Wing Commander A.B. Bhushan, he is a defense expert as well. I'd like to go across to Group Captain V.N. Jha. We're of course flashing all the numbers for our viewers, but one thing that really stands out is the price point between the F-35 and the Su-57. The F-35 costs 109 million while the Su-57 costs a mere 35 million. We've also seen the speed, we've seen the takeoff load, and there of course the Su-57 has a slight edge. It has greater speed and takeoff load than the F-35. So what is it that makes the F-35 more expensive and in fact 3 times the price of an Su-57?
Very good afternoon, Priya. Look, most of the aircraft that US has made is much costlier than the other manufacturers, whether it is Russia, whether it is France or Britain or Europe. So that's one thumb rule, that the US aircrafts are much costlier. But besides, today's India is not the India of the past where cost was the sole driver of the purchases, defense purchases. Today's India is just about 10 years back, we were about $1.7 trillion economy. Today, we are $4 trillion plus dollar economy. So affordability for India is there. Recently, only a few months back, India has floated a global tender for about 112 odd advanced, medium combat aircraft. So that requirement is there. Whether 35 fits into it, that Indian Air Force will have to see. But the general broad guidelines should be that the operational requirement and the qualitative requirements, they are the 2 basic things that we look into the aircraft before we even make a decision whether to buy it or not. So that OR and the QR will have to match our requirement, which broadly is that it should supplement Atmanirbhar Bharat plan. it should fit into that, and we should not be dependent onto the foreign agency where from we are buying the aircraft. It should be with the TOT offer, Make in India program, so that that many aircraft can be handled here. And also, usually most of the buyers of American warplanes, they usually complain that if there is a need of the difference of opinion with America, then what happens is the America twists the tail of the customer. That should not happen. Here in this case, even in the adverse condition, if we are operating against U.S. Mandate, that spares, that parts, that arms and ammunition should continue remaining as a provision with us. Usually what happens, US passes a law and they stop the spares and the ammunitions. That must not happen. Third thing is dual engine is the one what we should be going in for. That is much more advantageous than the single engine. F-35 is a single engine, so that's a drawback with that. It should be a state of the art design of the recent origin. F-35 is not today's design. It was designed about 15 years, 16 years back, and then thereafter, many variants of F-35s are there. So that is another drawback. Affordability of the number. The moment we decide to buy the numbers, it should be at least 3, 4, 5 squadrons of that aircraft. Whether we can afford to buy that many of the aircraft, and then the cost of the serviceability, cost of the spares, that we have to see it. So overall cost effectiveness and spares, the TOT, whether it needs all those things, whether it meets all those requirements. So there are many things it has to be seen. Right now, the US has offered. This is another thing, Pia, that earlier, if Indian Air Force or any other Air Force used to go to USA for advanced aircraft, they used to offer, 1 or 2 generations lesser of the aircraft. Today, without our asking, US is offering you their best aircraft. Of course, it is not the latest of the design, but their best aircraft. So we have to see. Today we are in the state of the strength, whether we can pay the cost of many things. Cost should not be the entire factor driving entire thing. There, I think Su-57 is slightly better than the F-15, because Su-57 has got latest, that is the latest of the design. Of course, the stealth character of S-57 is not as good as F-35. So that is one small factor that India will have to see. India also has to see what its neighbor has got, what sort of threats are being posed by a neighbor. Today, China has got their J20, J21, whatever you can call, and they are also going for J37, 35. That should be, the one which is India's concern. Pakistan, don't bother. Pakistan is not the concern for India today, but China is. So we should look into all those things, and then we should decide what sort of OR and QR should be made, whether F-35 fits into that QR. And of course, before making a decision, Indian Air Force will have to fly those aircrafts. We will have to fly those operational, requirements, whether it meets everything, and then only the decision will be made. Like in the Rafale, there were 5 aircrafts offered at that time, out of which Rafale suited the Indian Air Force the best. Of course, that time that government didn't have the money to buy that many of Rafales, so it couldn't be bought at that time. But this time, we have got money, we have got the strength, and we are right now talking to any OEM, original equipment manufacturer, with the strength, because we already have our own LCA. We have got LCA Mark 1, LCA Mark 1A is already there, LCA Mark 2 is being assembled, and advanced aircraft that is already in the pipeline, where it is fairly in the advanced stage. So that the urgency of the requirement is not there. So let Government of India, Ministry of Defence and Indian Air Force decide about it. But what I have spoken to you are the broad parameters whether India should go for this F-35 or not. What price they are quoting right now, that will not be the price. There will be negotiation, and Modi is a hard bargainer, that we know. So those things we'll have to see. So good that US has offered. India will have to make up its minds what is its requirement and whether F-35 fits into that or not. Yeah.
Indeed, I'd like to take this conversation forward with Wing Commander A.V. Bhushan, defense expert. Sir, thank you for taking out time and sitting with us on NewsX. The larger question, of course, I had posed earlier is which aircraft fits India's strategic and operational needs. We've seen in the past as far as deliveries from the United States of America are concerned, and I'm pointing towards the February 2020 deal, that $800 million deal that was inked between India and the United States for the Apache helicopters. We still haven't received them. Several delays have taken place. So keeping all this in mind, which aircraft do you feel fits India's operational needs better, considering the fact that we do have to meet our target for our operational fleet, which currently stands at 31?
Good afternoon, Roshan. And I have an experience in 1971 war when we were liberating Bangladesh. The American fleet came into the play. It was the Russians who came in and stopped the American fleet coming in. So therefore, there is certain lots of background that the government of India will have to go through, because the reliable partner till now in all aspects, irrespective of what conditions you were, in what war situation you were, Russia has been your best all-time friend and supplier. The American companies generally, as Gupta Tyagi mentioned, they are ruled by the American law, and if they find that you have violated somewhat small little segment, they stop the spares. Now, India will have to take it's the early days yet, as I said. It is to be evaluated whether we require that aircraft for our environment. Who are your enemies, or what is your environment? Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh, China. Those are the very important ones. Now, whether whatever equipment we are getting, do we want a large numbers? Do you want a reliable partner? Do you want the same performance? Or do you think something lesser than F-35 will suit your needs? And maybe a stopgap arrangement like from the Russian aircraft, which can help us in Atmanirbhar. Also, there is another contender called SAB from Sweden, who has agreed to set up the plant itself in India. So you have the options available to you. The general feeling is the American aircraft are costlier, and they generally prepare a place for the pilot to sit in the aircraft, then make the aircraft around him. The Russians are slightly different. They make an effective aircraft and they say, we have to put the pilot. This is how the story was when we were flying. By way back in 65, 66, that's how the AN-32, AN-12s, and MiG-31, all that happened. But it is too early to us, because a lot of evaluation will happen. The cost factor, though may not look very difficult, it is not simple. Because when you get 3 aircraft on the same cost, with a slight drop in performance, with our environment, maybe the Air Force, which evaluates, the government will sit on, may opt more for the Russian aircraft or the SAB. Even the SAB has promised you to provide all equipment, provide establishment here, transfer technology, all that is possible. And SAB is a neutral country in respects that they have always been agreed to do whatever they did, they performed. So therefore, today I would say that this announcement is too early for us to speculate where it will head.
Indeed, sir. With that, I would like to thank you as well as Group Captain V.N. Jha for joining us on the broadcast, of course, discussing this very, very crucial issue. Of course, India will have to assess its priorities as far as ramping up our defense infrastructure is concerned. All right, viewers, that's all we have as far as the outcomes of the Modi-U.S. Bilateral meeting in Washington is concerned. Meanwhile, we have some interesting news trickling in.